Hey fellas, I got inspired. I'm going to make a part 3 about good suffering and bad suffering. Now, part 1, if you've watched it, I talked about good suffering and bad suffering in regards to overcoming social anxiety. Part 2, I went on a bit of a rant. I spoke about investing time, investing money in mentors, changing your mentality, just the general principles that I learned in life for success and in everything I've done in my life, which could obviously really help you. In part 3, I want to come back to social anxiety, and I strictly want to speak about in this video. I'm going to do my best not to go off topic. I know I do that sometimes, apologies, I get into it. I strictly want to speak about in this video, purely speaking to people, and that's it. For people that have got social anxiety, especially people that are at the stage where how I used to be a few years ago, and how a lot of my clients are, where you're really nervous, you're really terrified of people. So, first thing I just want to say is, excuse me, I totally understand how you feel. I had it myself for years. I was so frightened of social anxiety that, excuse me, I didn't want people to know that I had it. And when I read some articles online, just out of curiosity, they said, it's interesting through studies, and I can confirm this through my own experience and truth. The biggest fear that most people have that have got social anxiety is displaying the symptoms in public. People are actually frightened of people seeing that they've got social anxiety. I'm going to say that's been true to me, and that's been true based on me working with hundreds of people and understanding this condition in depth detail, as you could probably tell. So the first thing I'm going to say to you is, surrender to it. Show people you're afraid. Don't try and hide it. That one tip there, I could just close this video now, that'll change your life, but obviously I'll need to explain it. How your mentality will change, I promise you, wholeheartedly, I've done this myself. If you say to yourself, and I know it's hard, it feels hard, but it's very simple. If you say, F it, everyone that I socialise with, I'm going to show them that I've got anxiety, I'm not going to hide it. I can't explain to you, and I guarantee now, just spiritually, intuitively, you'll feel what I'm saying, you'll understand it on a spiritual level. When I say spiritual level, I mean when you intuitively know that it's the truth what I'm saying, and it's going to be true for you, it'll inspire you. You'll find when you're that open, you probably won't experience as much anxiety. You're still going to experience it, but not as much, because that's the trick of the false ego. The false ego will say, this is how my mind used to work. If people see that I've got social anxiety, they're going to try and bully me, they're going to manipulate me, they're going to think I'm less of a person. At some level, my social value is going to decrease. Now, even if that was true, which it wasn't true, because obviously I had a good reason to feel this, and it's probably the same for you if you had an abusive relationship with a parent growing up, which I did with my dad. I was always worried that people are going to try and replicate how my dad treated me. But as I said in the last video, avoidance is the worst suffering of all. When you avoid people, I know for me, and I know for you guys and girls, you get anxiety, you get depression, you go into your addictions, you get more neurotic thoughts, and it becomes more scary to face people. And I think it's the shock of being around people when you've been avoiding people for so long. So the first tip is change the mentality. Show them the feelings. Most times people, I can tell you straight now, people don't care that you've got anxiety, because most people in society, and I socialise with a lot of people, are so mind identified anyway. Most people are not conscious, and I don't mean that to be condescending or judging people, I'm just telling the truth. Most people are not conscious. They're thinking about what you think about them. They're thinking about their bank account, they're thinking about their business, they're thinking about their relationship, they're thinking about what they've seen on TV, they're thinking about what they're going to do. They're not thinking about you, which is great news, which means you can change your whole worldview from having this type of very egotistical sense of self. And I had it myself. I've always had quite a large ego because of having so much insecurity growing up, until I've worked on myself. They're not thinking about you like you think they are. And if you do display the symptoms, they're going to notice it. You do notice it. But it's okay, it's human. Because everyone gets anxiety sometimes. But when you've got social anxiety, it feels very magnified. So that's just changing your mentality. And the second tip I want to give you is, you have to understand the value of what you're going to get from facing people and going through those uncomfortable feelings. I know myself, it's the feelings that you're frightened of. It's not people. People are just a projection of how you feel about yourself. I did other videos about anxiety doesn't really exist, social anxiety, it's a projection from the self. So think about the benefits. I'm going to be really straight with you, it's really simple, I don't want to keep it simple in this video. For me personally, the benefits of eventually becoming socially confident, I was willing to die for it. You've got to be willing to die for it. I know that sounds extreme, and guess what? I did have to die for it. I had to go through an egoic identity death, which is death. I went through a nervous breakdown. I don't even know why I laugh, it's relief. I don't need to go through a nervous breakdown. I lost a lot of friends. Arguments with family, being judged because of a change of identity. But I had to do that. I couldn't live a lie. I couldn't live wearing a mask, and it was jeopardizing my happiness. So at the cost of going through that, investing in that suffering, what came about? What you see now. Being relaxed, not stuttering when I speak, people were listening when I talk, enjoying my words, loving who I am. That's all waiting for you, but that won't come if you avoid it. Now, I think the third tip I'm going to give you is it takes time, patience. That's why I work with people for the minimum 6 weeks. I occasionally work with people for one session. I won't turn people down if they need my help. If people need to do an hour on Skype, or people need to work with me in London for 2 hours, a taster session, or people just want to meet me and just get some tips and just get some reference experience, that's fine. But generally speaking, people that want to overcome social anxiety and are serious, you need to commit time. Why do you need to commit time? Well, I don't know, it's the human condition. I wish I understood the human condition more, and to some extent I do, but sometimes I don't. It took me years to overcome social anxiety. It's not going to take you years. Based on the information that you've got on my YouTube channel, the level of teaching now, not just from myself, I feel a bit egotistical when I say that, but it's true, the level has gone to another level now. People get results so much more quicker now, but you need to invest time because it takes time for your psychology to adjust to new changes. You can't change your identity in a weekend, and if you did do changes at that rate, and my mentor spoke about this, I think, when he did an interview on London Real, it's very dangerous. You could have, and that's why I had a nervous breakdown, because I placed stress on my body it couldn't cope with. Now, in saying that, you don't want to convince yourself and kid yourself that you're overstressing when you're not. So there is a balance. Depending on, it could be different for everyone. You might not have severe social anxiety. Maybe a weekend course or you investing in a few hours is going to change it for you. And if that's so great, but for someone who has it severely or really has to work for a lot of fears and insecurities and change your psychology and your identity, you have to do it over time because the body won't be able to cope. Confidence, self-esteem, getting comfortable around people happens gradually. I worked with Geoff for 3 years. I've made dramatic changes. I've completely changed identity, personality from the old Johnny Berba. And I couldn't have done that with this type of work, working at this level with Geoff. I wouldn't have been able to do this with a year. I had to do it, spread it out. I had a history of violence, addictions, insecurities, trauma. So I needed to do this type of work gradually. But on the other side, when it came to getting good with women, I did it relatively quickly. I did it with about a year of being around Floyd. And now, public speaking, I did that in a matter of months. So it really does depend on where you're at in your social anxiety and where you want to get to and how much work you're going to be willing to do. And as I've said, if you're going to invest in a mentor like myself, if you're not going to do it that way and you're going to go what I call cold turkey by yourself, you could do that depending on how many hours you put in. And again, it really does depend on the type of personality you have, your psychology, but generally speaking, on a consistent basis from what I've observed in myself and from mentoring people, overcoming social anxiety is a gradual thing. The body needs time, and I'll tell you why. Because I went through so much trauma growing up with my dad. Like, my psychology, my unconscious psychology was, I cannot trust people, especially men, everyone. And when I see people, how my psychology was wired up, the unconscious was, I'm in danger. So every time I'd walk into a room full of people, my heart would start pounding, my internal monologue would start racing with neurotic thoughts. They're judging me, I'm in danger, I can't trust these people. I'd be projecting my own insecurities back, judging people because I felt judged. I couldn't get my words out properly like now. I'd be stifled, talking fast, all my sub-personalities would be coming up. I'm making a bit of a joke, but it's true. A mask would go on, I'd be adapting, people pleasing, because I had a lot to deal with. So I had to gradually start to desensitize myself to the feelings by putting myself in social situations. So I remember, I'll give you an example. When I first started changing my identity and working with Geoff, I was basically, what he had to do is, and this is the process, he had to break me down. So I kind of had to go through this phase of feeling like all my powers were being taken away, because all of my old identity that had built up, a lot of what I call egoic confidence of going out, getting laid with women, I'd built up a lot of confidence, but as I said, in an identity that wasn't really my true self. So I had to gradually break that self down. You can't just, metaphorically speaking, rip off an old social mask, put a new one on, in the context of having severe social phobia and overcoming it in one social event. I wish it was that quick. If I could make a remedy that quick, I'd be a billionaire, and I'd be curing more people than I'm doing now, and I would have overcome this myself a lot quicker. But that hasn't been the case, and certainly, human science isn't up to speed that quick. And if it is, they're not releasing the antidote. And modern day psychology, psychotherapy has not. It hasn't progressed at a fast enough rate at the moment. And as we are as humans, our biology, our psychology, our getting stifled, our physiology is at a rate where this is how we are as human beings so far. So you have to do this gradually, and that's how confidence is built. I'll basically break it down for you, because I can kind of understand how my own mind works and my whole body, and this is my consciousness speaking, not my ego. Like I said, we've got memory. In our head is like a computer, we've got memories. We've got stored memories on the unconscious. So I've got like a story, and that's what social anxiety is. You've got a story, or you've got a collection of stories of social situations that you went into in your life where you had a negative experience. One of my stories was my dad beating me, and that's not sounding dramatic, that's the truth. My dad beating me, hitting me, and screaming and shouting at me, and there were certain lasting memories of events of him, one of them being him criticizing me, saying, do you know how stupid you sound when you speak like that? And that stayed on my psychology for years. So when I go into social situations, even though I'm around new people, they don't know what I've been through, they never met me before. Obviously it's paranoia, but my paranoia is for a good reason, your paranoia is for a good reason. That story's playing out, so I have to challenge that story by facing people, suffering the feelings that I have to suffer, that's going to come up for me, scrape through the 2 hours social event, or if it's going on a date with a woman, come out of that, take a deep breath. I'm going to feel stressed because my body's gone into fight or flight, but I come away with new reference points saying, well, actually, that was stressful in my body, but they didn't kill me, they didn't criticize me, and nothing happened. It was good. So when I go into another social situation, I've got a bank of positive information, but I'm earning it through a deliberate suffering. I'm suffering psychologically, emotionally, but I'm suffering at the cost of developing new psychology, new beliefs, and I'm gradually dissolving the old negative beliefs, which are what my dad said to me. And I've got some experiences from school where I got bullied, and some of the bad things that I did in my life that stayed on my psychology, I'm starting to wear them out through developing new beliefs. And a lot of that came about me healing other people and teaching, basically earning my self-respect back. So ultimately this is what you're doing. And yes, in psychology they would call it CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy. Yes, is when you challenge your assumptions and your beliefs by replacing them with new ones. Exactly, that's what my teaching is, and that's what you're doing ultimately. All these things in psychology, psychotherapy, we just give it names and labels. I personally don't fully agree with giving things names and labels. As Tolly said, I just use words, names and labels as a direction towards the truth. When it really comes down to it, I'm more interested in spiritual language. I'm interested in really saying, basically what's happening at the moment is you're in a state of lower consciousness, you're in a state of anxiety where you feel you can't trust people, you're nervous. What you need to do is, you need to elevate your state of consciousness and connect to your authentic true self, your soul, God, the universe. That's more my language, but I know that everyone doesn't understand that language. Some of you do understand that language, but all of the language points to the same thing. The truth is, you want to change your psychology and disprove that not everyone is out to get you, and lots of people in life can be trusted, but you don't need to try and trust people. You need to ultimately trust yourself, which will change your inner projection inwardly, outwardly, so people don't look like goblins and monsters and devils and demons. They start looking like nice people, which they are, mostly. You're going to build new relationships. Then you're going to say to yourself, hold on a second, this is, and even an idiot would think this. After going into a certain amount of social situations, a month or 2 months passed, excuse me, and this is usually the case when I work with people in my 6 weeks program. After a month, they'll say, I remember speaking to my friend, and I hope he doesn't mind, actually I'm not going to name his name just in case, but I remember him saying, he worked with me for 6 weeks, he grew a lot, and then he took some time out, and he said, I want to do another 6 weeks. On the second batch of sessions, at one stage he said, I feel like I've really improved, but I'm not sure, I feel like I haven't grown. I said, well, when you actually look at the facts and we see the evidence, you've massively improved. And when I reminded him and said, you did public speaking at my event, you've travelled to a new country, you've been going to meet up events with big groups of people, this is incredible. You wasn't doing this before. And it was only till I said it, he said, oh yeah, you're right, I didn't realise it. Because he didn't realise how much he's grown from when he first started. And I said, watch how much more growth you're going to get on the second lot of 6 week transformation with me. Watch what you're going to be doing. And when I did the second batch of work with him and sat with him on the last session, I was sitting with a different person. His presence, his confidence, his speech had improved because he suffered and grew and changed his psychology. And I haven't seen him for a while. I guarantee you he's going to have changed more because he's been putting in the work. So the changes are subtle to start with social anxiety, but all the subtle changes, when you add them up, it's massive. And that's exactly the same with the work I did with Geoff. The changes were very subtle at the start. Excuse me. It's only now myself, because I couldn't see it at the start, the first few sessions, but after about 2 years, I felt I spiritually changed. Situations that used to frighten me didn't bother me anymore. And it was only until when I looked at my elder videos and I couldn't help it, I got really embarrassed, because you do get embarrassed sometimes. I seen my old stuff and I thought, oh my God, who's that guy? I've seen the difference, how much I've changed, and I felt that the confidence that I got from working with Geoff was just second to none. So the confidence that people get with me when they work with me is second to none. And even if you don't choose to go and do a course and work with me, if you put the work in, the confidence is second to none, because your psychology will keep changing. Now, as I said before, the more proof you get, the more benefits and the more self-esteem you get, the more you're going to be encouraged to step it up. So for me personally, what I did was, when I first started to publicly speak, I made mistakes, I dried up, I got nervous, but when I came away, the actual growth that it gave me, it inspired me to say, it's worth it. I'm willing to put myself through feeling nervous around people for getting that growth. And eventually, excuse me, I've gone dizzy for some reason. This happens sometimes when I talk so honestly and I'm connecting today. Yeah, seeing the benefits of what I achieved made me want to put myself in that position more. And it was the same when I first started doing interviews. A lot of people interviewed me. I've got loads of interviews you can find online. Believe it or not, I used to get quite nervous doing interviews at the start. Now I've become so much more accustomed and confident. When I think about it, I've lost count of how many interviews I've done through dating coaches. Most of the dating coaches in London, people in America, different personal development, different shows, business shows, so many different interviews I've done, some interviews, some speaking, some in person, some over Skype, some podcasts. It's all suffering, man. So this is how you overcome social anxiety and get better with people, like I've said. I didn't want to overcomplicate it, it's very simple. You put yourself in social situations, you suffer the feelings, it gets easier every time, and eventually, guess what? You'll be in a social setting, this is going to happen to you, I guarantee you. And you're going to say, you're not even going to realise it, you're going to say, oh shit, I wasn't in my head, I was present, I wasn't nervous, I wasn't thinking, is everyone judging me? I was actually enjoying the conversations, I loved it. I've changed. And that's what happened to me when I started doing YouTube videos. When I first started, I was quite self-conscious. You can probably tell if you go back, I was in my head. And it was only till maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago, I realised, oh my God, I'm as comfortable speaking in a video as if you was in person with me, because I am. I've practiced so much. I did over 1,000 YouTube videos. So I really just wanted to inspire you and to make sense of what I know that you already know, the benefits of facing your fear. And eventually you'll just learn to love the feelings, and the feelings will be very mild. That's what happened to me. When I was around people, it felt so mild until the feelings went away. And if the feelings do come up, you'll be able to manage them because of your experience, your skill. And that's it. I want to leave it in this video. It feels like I've said enough. I'll make more videos. This is part 3. I hope you enjoyed this video. This is the essence of what I learned through overcoming social phobia and getting confident people. It's everything that I teach on my 6 weeks program and all my teaching. And it's also a lot about what I learned with working with my mentor Geoff, when he put me through this suffering, spiritual growth, all of it, same principles. Good suffering versus bad suffering. I'll end off with this note. Bad suffering is very simple. Bad suffering is, all of us are guilty of this. When we don't face our fears, we let fear beat us, we suffer depression, we suffer the consequences of not facing fear. Good suffering is when we knuckle down, we bite down, we get a strong purpose or a strong motivation for what it is we want to achieve. We face our fear gradually until we become accustomed to the suffering, and then we get the results of that, which is healthy self-esteem, relationships, improving finances, self-love, and all the rest of it. I hope you enjoyed that. As always, if you want to learn more about my teaching, my courses, go to my website, www.johnnyberba.com. All my information of my courses are there, and I've got loads of articles that are free that you can read on social anxiety, confidence, healing, confidence of women, so much more. I'll see you soon, bye.